Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks PRO. Let's get started.
Well, welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast. My name is Lee Reams, and we are joined today by Rebekah Barton, our Chief Visibility Officer for CountingWorks. Rebekah, could you say hello?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I am super excited to dive into this today.
Yeah, so our topic is how consumers have changed the way they choose what brands and services they spend their money on. Everything from referrals to online awareness has evolved, and we're going to talk about thought leadership today. So what is thought leadership and why it is important to tax and accounting professionals? So let's start. Let's define it a little bit. I want you to understand the world has changed in the way people choose who to buy things from, right? And we said that, but the reality is they're looking for trusted brands, trusted people, brands that resonate, that they think are knowledgeable, that they're experts. When it comes to tax and accounting services, that's more important than ever. So when people are looking to choose, who I'm going to have as my financial advisor, I want to make sure, A, they have the experience that will take my business to another level. If it's for tax preparation, that they know tax minimization strategies that perhaps others don't. And the goal of thought leadership is to create that kind of pre-sold image in their heads that you are the best alternative. So, Rebekah, when we talk about thought leadership, those are kind of some of the reasons of what it is, but why is it important from an SEO and kind of an awareness issue in getting traffic to your website and be able to attract the right kind of clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest Google ranking factors is authority. And that's hugely important, particularly in today's internet. Obviously, the internet is very saturated. Everybody has a website these days. So it's super important to establish yourself as an authority. And in tax and accounting in particular, there's generalists literally everywhere. So if you can niche down, pick a niche that you're really good at, passionate about, and then subsequently establish yourself as a leader in that area, it's going to look great to Google, going to look great to social media algorithms. So it really does matter.
So when you say that, we're not, and I think this is an important thing a lot of people don't realize, that we are playing to the algorithms. We are playing to Google, and not just their algorithm, but it's sometimes the human people that were going to review your website, for example.
Absolutely.
And if you're getting a ton of traffic, they're going to want to make, and we've talked about this in other webinars that we've done, just about your authority, your trustworthy, your experience, your expertise. These are part of elements that go into the algorithm that determine how you're ranked and whether they're going to rank you high or not. A lot of times, I think tax accounting pros think you just put up a website and they will come. But explain a little bit before we get into more on thought leadership, like what are some of the other factors that will help your tax and accounting practice and your website rank higher?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, this isn't Field of Dreams. So you do have to do a little bit of work on your end in order to make people visit you. So obviously, blogging matters. I think we've all heard this. We've all heard you've got to have relevant content. And so, as we said, the more authority you have in an area, the more you niche down, the more you're posting about whatever it is that your niche is, wherever you want your authority to be, that's going to help you. So blogging is huge. Google has about 200 ranking factors. So there's a lot that goes into all of this. We obviously don't have time today to discuss all 200, but it comes down to things like metadata being very important. Alt text on your images. Image size is important. The images you use are important. Google's algorithm, as it gets smarter, it understands facial recognition. So it could match, say, if you have a photo of you on your About Us page on your website, it might match that to your social media and say, oh, wow, this matches, this is accurate, this is the same person. So it's a very smart algorithm these days, and it's looking at just about everything.
And so let's get into one of the things I think people don't realize is it takes time. It takes patience. It takes a strategy in order to become a thought leader and to rank well online. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of the value of and why it's important. So becoming a reliable source of insight and information for others is really important. So if you can become that go-to, let's say you create a relationship with some journalists, for example. We'll talk a little bit about PR here, but you might become that go-to resource or contact that anytime there's some breaking news. For example, we just had an opportunity with the IRS free tax filing system. And then we were getting hit up right away from our PR resources and journalists that we talk to often about creating content around that. And another example is it's military. There's a big, I think the month of June or May, there's a lot of military related issues. So as a go-to, TaxBuzz, for example, has go-to relationships with a lot of different journalists. They came to us and said, hey, pitch us some ideas around military and taxes and what might apply. So I put together literally a list of 12 different ideas or things that might resonate. And they picked one, and now we're writing a 1,000-page guest blog article. So that's the way we now have become a reliable source. And you as tax and accounting professionals need to do the same. We do this with our clients. We have a lot of different tools that allow them to get these same opportunities. We have a PR, basically a PR agency within our subscription. So we help our clients get quoted. We put them out there to journalists. So it's a really, it's a big thing. So what this does is it helps build your brand. If you're in a niche, and we were talking about this, when we say, Rebekah was kind of talking about niching down. So one of the common things that we talk about to our clients is the difference between a generalist, which is a CPA, an EA, a bookkeeping for whatever, that is a jack of all trades. So meaning you work with any type of client. So let's say you're just working with business clients. You're taking in, let's just say you have 100 clients to make it easy. I bet you maybe 5 of those clients might be related, but in there you have then 20 different segments of things you need to learn. What are the KPIs, the metrics that are important? What are the standard cash flow metrics? How do these businesses grow? How do they fund themselves? What are the legal, requirements? So there's a lot of extra work. So what we think of if you want to become a thought leader is to identify what you're really good at, what you have a ton of knowledge in and what you're passionate about, and then focus all of your energy on building blogs, videos around that particular niche. And that's the fastest way to really build and boost your industry presence and really build your practice's reputation online. So a lot of the reasons you want to do thought leadership, it establishes credibility in your field. No matter how much you want to grow your firm, thought leadership matters. And I want to give another example. And what I mean by this is, even if you're, I heard, I don't want any more clients, I'm busy as can be. Well, there's a couple ways to handle that. One is you can create more packaging and charge more, and then have fewer clients actually make more money. But more importantly, if you are a thought leader, and when people are Googling specific topics, so they have questions, they have pain points, and they're finding content, whether that be a video, a podcast, a blog that you've done, you're going to be more attracted. You're going to be more attractive to them, right? So you're going to be able to demand higher fees. And I think that's something that people kind of discount. And if you do this right, and you can grow it really well, where you can max out growth stages and say, okay, I'm only going to work with 20 clients in this virtual CFO package for, restaurants. I'm just giving an example. And I'm charging $2,500 a month. And these are the services that I provide there. And what you'll see is, okay, I can handle with my current team, 20 to 25 firms in this package. I have a waiting list. And when I'm ready to grow, or if a client leaves me, I have 5 to 6 clients already lined up to jump in. These are ways that being a thought leader is really going to help, I think, your overall income and your success. And more importantly, by focusing on one area, it's going to be a lot easier to do your job. So I think those are some of the reasons for the value. Did I miss anything and kind of the talking points there, Rebekah?
I don't think so. I think, you're playing the long game. And I think that's important to remember. There may not be an immediate return on this, but it's well worth it in the end. And we've seen it play out, like Lee was saying, with a lot of our own clients who we work with.
Yeah, so let's talk about the way Google works. And if you are a thought leader and you've written articles, so Google my name, Lee Reams, or if you Google, let's say, your brand, and your practice should be, the website should be number one. On the right side, you'll see the Google profile, business profile. Hopefully you've attracted a ton of 5-star reviews. Any other review sites, like a site like TaxBuzz. But then you're going to start seeing mentions or articles that you've been mentioned in, if you are doing a thought leadership. So if you had PR opportunities and you've mentioned in a Forbes article or a Go Banking article or Bloomberg, whatever it is, people on the Google results are going to start seeing those listings one after another. So if you think about it from a buyer's point of view, or even a current client's point of view, would I want to refer my CPA if I knew that when I Googled them, I see all these glowing things and all these quotes and citations that they are the expert? I feel pretty good about doing that referral. So explain a little bit, Rebekah, kind of maybe how the search results work and kind of the goal of what we do for our clients and trying to help them look like to get this ideal profile.
Sure, absolutely. So the algorithm continues getting smarter. It's obviously not a human. It is all a computer. So it's not literally reading these things, but it understands if it's seeing your name mentioned, it's seeing citations across all of these really great websites. You're going to start ranking higher because you've built that trust, you've built that authority in whatever area it is. So if you think about it, keywords essentially are the internet looking for the words that match what you're doing across the web. So just to put it in very simple terms. So say you are specializing in real estate investors, and maybe you develop a relationship with, a local real estate investment firm, and they're mentioning you on their blog. You can think small too. It doesn't have to be Bloomberg, Forbes. Those are great. But for geolocation, which is a lot of what we do, local resources can be just as helpful, particularly to people in your area who might be Googling real estate investors in, let's just say, Greenville, South Carolina, for example, and that's what you specialize in as a tax professional. If you've been mentioned in these different places and Google is seeing, oh, wow, they really know their stuff, you're going to just start ranking higher and higher and higher. We call that evergreen content, something that grows authority over time. And that's where PR and all of these different things that Lee has mentioned really come into play, is helping you with evergreen work.
Yeah, and Rebekah, evergreen is the clients that have been with us along, especially our VIP clients. They now rank for literally thousands of keywords, and we call them long tail keywords. And it's over, 5-7 years that they've been working with us. And it gets to a point where we track all this in one of our software tools that basically says, okay, what are the keywords I'm worried about, I'm trying to track for, and then it tracks every mention and every search query where you rank. And we have found, some of our clients literally have 100 page one listings for different keywords, and it might be localized as well. And it's because of this evergreen content. It's because of this online reputation they built through thought leadership. And I think that's an important thing to understand when we say patience, and why thought leadership is so important, because it's like an annuity. It keeps paying off over and over again versus a pay-per-click campaign with Google, where you throw a budget at it, and if it works, great. But when you stop that budget, the hose turns off. And if it didn't work, you're out of that money. So investing in thought leadership and evergreen type content is really key in the tax and accounting, any knowledge-based profession. So before we get into kind of the easy ways to build thought leadership, I wanted to talk about some of the blockers you hear. Specifically, Rebekah, I know some tax and accounting firms are not as comfortable being in front of cameras, writing blog articles, et cetera. So, what are some of the things that you see that are blockers, and how do you try to coach our clients to overcome them?
So the two biggest things I hear are they don't have time or they don't have the social media experience. And both of those are valid concerns. But I think one thing that's important to remember is that it doesn't have to take a lot of time to build thought leadership. You can post a blog. I say it all the time if you've listened to our webinars, 400 to 600 words is kind of the sweet spot to get ranked. That doesn't take a ton of time to write if it's a topic that you know and are really comfortable with. So if you can set aside, an hour on a Saturday afternoon to put together a really nice blog, that's going to pay off dividends for years to come potentially. And that's just one example. And as far as social media goes, I know social can be tough, especially for older clients who maybe have never used it before, and that is generational. But those firms still need to be attracting people who use social media, because that is the new way that people find businesses. So I think it's really important to remember that, one, you can do this. There are a lot of resources out there. There are free stock images available if you need those. You can also use your own lifestyle images, which is really the best way to go. It could be as simple as taking a photo of your desk during tax season with all the paperwork that you're doing, within legal reason, of course. So calculators, though, things like that. And you can post that and just ask people a question about the busyness of tax season to encourage engagement. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah, I think those are all important things. So talking about kind of these strategies and how to get started. So you talked about social media, talked about content marketing, how do you build authority? And I think you start by basically defining your area of expertise. And I mentioned this earlier, but what are you really good at? If you're really good at expat taxes or you specialize in a certain, the Middle East, for example, create your thought leadership content around that. If you're working with CrossFit gyms across the country, create your content around that and make your personality and just the vibe, using that lifestyle type things, but make it fit that audience. Something that Rebekah had mentioned that I think is important when she was talking about maybe older demographics or older accounting firms or professionals is the reality is you're going to have hopefully a succession plan. If you want to attract the very best talent, younger talent coming in, you better have a really beautiful website. You better have some thought leadership. You better have a review profile. And that's going to help attract younger talent to say, hey, I want to be a part of this firm. And then hopefully those are the people that will take over and as you hand over your firm for future growth. So I'm getting off topic a little bit, but so first of all, clearly define your area of expertise. We talked about this niche down. So go narrow versus wide on your expert topic. It's much less competitive. It's easier to stand out. It's easier to rank on Google. There's still usually, unless you're so narrow that there's 5 people that would care about that topic, you're going to be fine with enough people coming in. Something that is really a fun tool to use is keep up with the latest news, the law changes, developments. Every morning, quite honestly, I wake up and the first thing I do, open my iPad and I start looking at any breaking news, any trending items. Every day there's something going on. There was a firm that their CFO took out $25 million and put it into another fund, or I guess another business that they had planned to pay back at an interest rate. But basically, they were investing in crypto. And that was an article that broke this morning. I found it on a CFO. Actually, I think it was delivered on a CFO newsletter. What I'm getting at is if you follow a lot of different breaking news, you put Google alerts where you have certain topics that a lot of the stuff will be delivered to you. And there's articles that might be breaking by someone else that you can totally jump in and spin it and do your version of that article. And that's a great way to create new content. And then even if you're just sharing these articles specifically, we call it curating content, adding maybe a line or two of commentary and sharing the article to this information. It's a great way to start building, your audience as you go. People are going to depend on you, and hey, daily they're going to be up to date on things, and kind of you're doing the roundup for them, if that makes sense. Listen to other influencers, peers, and clients to expand your narrative. So get different points of view. This will help you kind of think out of the box. I think it's really important to be cutting edge at times. You can't have the same belief system, the same thoughts that everyone else does. You need to make people that stand out, people that are controversial. Elon Musk, for example, whether you hate him or love him, the guy has an opinion and he's not afraid to share his opinion. And guess what? He's built his entire brand, some of the biggest companies in the world, by this method. It obviously works. Apple is another example of a company that has a very set standard of what is, how do we communicate? How are we viewed? We are a premium technology product. They do not vary. They're very simple in their narrative and messaging. So these are things that you need to be able to kind of, be authentic to yourself and create your own version of this. So I'm not saying copy any of these people. People see through fakeness. They see through people that are trying to be thought leaders that aren't. Just be yourself. And if it resonates and you're adding value, people will engage it, okay? The other thing is utilize guest blogging and PR opportunities. This is where, and we'll just give some examples, Rebekah, of what we do for clients. So our VIP clients, we basically have taken, I don't know if you want to call it PR as a service, and we allow people to, we give them creative briefs to write content. So based on what we develop, we use AI and technology that says, this is how you need to write this article. We help them create content clusters around it. We give them PR opportunities where we're reaching out to all these journalists daily. We have, hey, we want to hear about this topic, give some quotes. So explain kind of what the PR side is.
Sure. So we work with a PR partner for major publications like Forbes, Business Insider, those sorts of things. And so essentially our VIPs have access to opportunities that are national or even international in their scope. And those arrive directly to your inbox. Very easy. You file off, maybe a 2 or 3 sentence paragraph is sometimes all it takes to get quoted. And so that's one service that we offer. We also have an internal service through TaxBuzz called Get Quoted, where we allow our VIPs to submit commentary on a variety of newsworthy topics. So it might be slightly political in nature, tax legislation, those types of things. Could be major entertainment stories like Shakira's tax troubles or the ongoing Kim Zolciak situation. Things. Are you
sure that's how to pronounce her name? I'm kidding.
I think so.
I think you're right. I wouldn't even come close to even trying that. I always say that housewife, but go ahead.
But trending topics, things that are a little bit fun that people are going to click on. We enjoy writing those, getting commentary from our pros, and that gets you a really, really great backlink off of TaxBuzz. And with our other PR partner, they can get you backlinks in very, very well-known publications. So it's super important to do this. And I know it sounds a little bit scary. I have people who are like, well, I don't know what to say, and just tell us what you think. Like Lee said, authenticity is really the most important thing. And the more authentic you are, it is going to come through online, and people are going to notice. And they're going to visit your website, and it's only going to help you.
Yeah, I think that is great. And something I want to take off of what you just said is you do need to vary the message and the way you create content depending on the audience. So I'm going to define this in 4 different categories. One is for your current clients. One is for prospect outreach. One is just basically your narrative, your website. And then the other one is kind of your positioning for media. So for clients, often what I see is tax and accounting pros write about themselves. They'll have every designation that they have. They don't realize that your audience really doesn't care. They do care after you've shown that you can solve their problem. But the reality is they have an existing pain point. They have an existing dream that they want to accomplish, right? So you want to make your outreach, the content you create, about them and not you. So I always say avoid selfish content. To add to this, many pros do not put bios on their websites. It's the second most viewed page. If you have a narrative, a personal bio, you're probably, I don't know, we haven't done any statistics on it, but we do see the traffic, do see the behavior, and we do see pros and firms. We have one, Murphy 3, that just throws full personality into their brand. They're one of the largest, CPA firms in Orange County. And it's because of this authenticity, this kind of, showing their personality that works so well. So definitely it 100% works. So different for prospect outreach. You want to be an innovator, right? So push the boundaries of ideas. Maybe, you're a little, I'm not saying throw a tax strategy out there that's illegal, right? But definitely think out of the box and maybe think of current strategies and think of new ways to spin them, right? So different ways to tell a story that you can kind of own it, even though it's a standard tax strategy that everyone already kind of is using. So I always say you don't have, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. One thing I talk about a lot with clients is think about who needs CPAs and tax professionals now. It's millennials. It's even some older Gen Z, people who are starting to earn money, build wealth. I'm a millennial myself. We have a little bit different outlook than, say, older generations. We want people who are injecting personality into things. You don't have to be this dry, fact-based. Facts are important, but we want to see that you're going to be able to help us in a unique way that's going to fix whatever issue we're experiencing. And I think that's something particularly for older tax professionals to keep in mind, that your new audience is largely going to be people in, their mid to late 30s and 40s who are needing help now. But we grew up in an era where the internet was a thing. We grew up with it.
Rebekah, age is just a number. I don't know why you're putting people in a box. But no, it's very true. And that's kind of the reason, specifically, I will say the average, I think it's 57 is the median age of the CPA, EA, tax and accounting industry. So yes, we know, as a Gen Xer, I guess we're going to put me in a box. I know what the internet is, and I use it all the time. So,
you do.
But 100%. And then kind of going on this age group, a lot of them are freelancing. A lot of them have multiple sources of income right now. So there's a lot of ways that you could create content around that that really will minimize their taxes, and more importantly, teach them how to save. There's some studies. I know there was a thought where you could really solve all of this entitlement, Social Security issues if you started giving every child $7,000 when they were born and put it in a situation where they can't touch it, how much time value of money, how much it grows, and then if they continue to put money in. So there's a lot of different ways to, I guess, spin narratives. So talking about narratives on your website, your marketing funnels, if you are a thought leader, make sure that your personality, this messaging, these talking points are on, think of it as a political campaign. You basically might have two main topics or talking points, and you stick with them no matter what the questions are. You just keep hitting those over and over again, and that's when it starts resonating. But make sure that your marketing funnel, so if you're now a thought leader in a specific, you're working with dental firms, you don't want to go then to a generalist website that doesn't speak to dental firms. So that's kind of my approach there. For the media, test out new ideas and strategies. They see the same thing over and over again. I think the average journalist gets like 10 pitches a day. They're always looking for a new angle or a solution to a problem. That's why a lot of times you'll see what we think is a little shocking, kind of clickbait type articles and content. That's because the journalists are looking for clicks and they want people to read things. And if you're not pushing the subject matter or the topic matter, it's kind of the same old. People aren't just going to pay attention.
And that's where pop culture can be huge, because people care deeply about pop culture, about celebrities. So if you have a really valid angle about, say, the Zolciak situation or something like that, as an expert in that field, so much better than a gossip columnist trying to cover these tax problems. But it can really get you in on the ground floor of these trending topics.
Yeah, you're going to get an audience purely because you're taking a different angle than People Magazine. So that's a good example. And then for us, when we write news articles, Rebekah is the main person, the main source. But like if we talk about Trump or anything political, Biden, anything political, we get a lot of activity, tons of shares, lots of engagement with, comments and things like that. So we're actually creating a discussion about whatever topic we do. So it's a great way to get more visibility for your brand, and this helps the algorithm, right? So if you're someone who's writing and you're getting a ton of activity on these third-party websites, if you posted on TaxBuzz, for example, you wrote an article for us and you're getting a ton of credibility. One, you have a high domain authority inbound link. Two, there's a lot of traffic coming from that. Google's going to look at that and comparing you to some local enrolled agent practice that isn't doing anything, you're going to outrank them. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
So you've been talking about the younger generation. Let's talk about some influencers, and you would be really surprised how big a following some people have on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram that are in the tax and accounting space. There's a CPA that I think he almost has 2 million followers, and he is doing nothing special. He is not doing anything special. He's not a Uber personality. He is a dry, normal CPA, middle-aged CPA, I would say, right? But he's covering topics that are not necessarily, he's telling the truth. He's not following a political narrative that the mainstream media does. So he's just cutting to the chase of what is really important. So forget political ideology. He just covers topics right down the middle and just say, hey, this is how you do it. So Rebekah, let's talk a little bit about what are the secrets and best practices if you wanted to get into doing these video shorter clips usually, but they can be a little longer form, but kind of explain what is the strategy there.
So there's a lot that goes into social media, but really the most important thing is to start. Consistency is key. It's kind of like real estate, location. With social media, consistency. You don't have to be perfect at first. Like Lee was saying, the guy he's mentioning, he just sits in front of a green screen and talks. You don't have to have fancy sets. You don't have to have anything major to get started doing this. So make an account if you don't have one and get started. That's really the first step. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get, the more the algorithm is going to start feeding you similar content so you can see what other people are doing. If you want to tweak as you go. But typically you'll hit on something that works for you and you'll start seeing more engagement on those videos or those posts that are really hitting your demographic. Stick with that. Stick with a variation of what you're doing that's working. You don't have to do anything fancy to really create a following. You need to provide authentic content in a niche. And that's kind of the bottom line with social media. If you're uncomfortable in front of a camera, there are options. TikTok, for example, has little eyes you can use instead of your full face. So there are some solutions for people who are just very camera shy and don't like to be in front of a camera. So I always talk to people about that you don't have to.
I'm not recommending that one, by the way.
No, I wouldn't recommend
But what's
it.
funny is she's probably right, and you probably would go viral. And if you use that approach for all of your content, you probably have a bigger following than others. The important part, though, is finding the right audience. You just don't want to go viral to go viral. It does help your credibility, your online credibility, and your kind of your scores for trustworthiness. But definitely have a strategy behind it.
Yes. And you
so
have
let's
to
talk about
that audience. Like one viral video is not going to build a following for you. So the consistency really is key, and valid, authentic information should be the takeaways.
I have an attorney. So I've been studying again, what's working for whom, how it's working. We've been developing some scripting for our professionals, just to give them a start on, this is what a TikTok script would look like, kind of how to apply it and then personalize it from there. But I've been following an attorney who is using TikTok specifically, and he has millions. I think he has 10 million followers, some crazy number. And he says he gets 10 to 20 high-end, credible clients per month purely from his TikTok account. But what he says, what I thought was interesting, and Rebekah kind of hit on this, is that he'll create 10 different versions of a concept that he might have. He has no idea which one will hit. And out of the 10, all of a sudden one message hits, and then he just expands upon that. And that's the way, it's just research. So the great thing about the internet is, and crowdsourcing, if you want to call it that, you'll get immediate feedback. So definitely start thinking about it. There are influencers now in our space, and they are starting to build big audiences. So there is absolutely an opportunity. I like the idea of having a focus, a niche that is smaller, that maybe is a little more professional, but at the same time, you show your personality. Don't be so cut and dry, make it entertaining, because social media is supposed to be entertaining. It's when people are killing time. And then when you're on their feed and people are scrolling, you want your posts to look exactly like what their friends are posting, because it's the same kind of thing where, it's someone out, this lawyer, for example, he'll be talking while he's grocery shopping. It's crazy. And then he'll have hundreds of thousands of people engage in it. So let's go on to a few more things as we get ready to kind of wrap this up. I do want to get into how ChatGPT affects content creation. I think it's an important thing. We're going to close on that.
Yeah.
So one of the things, though, if you start becoming a thought leader, we have a big effort for our own TaxBuzz site. We relaunched that site a few months ago. We've been steadily building. Actually, when we relaunched, our traffic went down, which usually happens. And then it started rebounding, and now we're way up with 40% year over year. And we're using thought leadership and PR to assist on that. And our domain authority continues to grow with it. I think that's important, but it does take time. So, how does thought leadership translate to traffic to your website, Rebekah?
Again, like you said, it's going to take time. You're not going to see generally, unless you do have something that just goes insanely viral and all of a sudden you have 250,000 people visiting your website because your video got 1 million views or something extenuating like that. It's going to take some time. And that really just has to do with how Google crawls the internet. I call them spiders. Google sends its little spiders out to crawl websites on a regular basis. As it crawls your website and it sees that consistent content being posted, whether it's blog posts or news articles that you're writing or citations that you're getting, just the whole web kind of works together to build your authority. So over time, as Google begins to see you mention more places, writing more things, your authority is going to grow, your ranking is going to get higher. And so that's kind of the basics of how that works. So the more you're doing, the better off you're going to be. There's really no such thing as a bad backlink or a bad citation as long as it's on a reputable website. You can't go wrong if you get, some people worry, oh, what if I'm being mentioned too much? I had that question the other day. And I was like, as long as it's a reliable website that's trustworthy, there's no such thing.
Well, that's why Apple, for example, doesn't care at all about SEO. They don't have to do one thing about SEO because it's how often they are linked to and how often their brand is mentioned. So you want to know the best SEO strategy, become a thought leader. Everyone else is talking about you. You don't even have to worry about the technical, throw the biggest pictures, the slowest loading, whatever you want. You're still going to rank really well. So I'm going to go into one item before I get into the kind of ChatGPT challenges and opportunities. Is one way to grow a following very quickly is to approach other influencers in our space and either interview them for your own podcast. Let's say you're doing a podcast or you're doing some video content, or be a guest on their site, or ask them opinions about articles that you're writing about so that you're posting and you can get a reciprocal thing. So you can utilize, basically you're exposing your brand to their followers, which might be a different niche or vertical, and likewise for both. So you're helping each other out. It's very common in the industry. So definitely something to think about.
And never be afraid to approach someone. You will be shocked by how many people in any given online space are like, yes, let's collaborate. Collaborating is huge. It's well known. So don't be afraid to just shoot a DM.
Yeah. And it's the reality is the way it works. That's the beauty of social media. And that's where independent voices now can compete with the mainstream media. And then their messages is getting watered down, right? People are starting to realize everything's biased. It's all propaganda. If I can get authentic voices out there, and that's what we're trying to teach, and I can I can see the YouTube. What was it last month? So all the other streamers, they're seeing lower volume of viewers, and YouTube continues to grow because of all these independent voices. And that's the reality. People can explore all kinds of different points of view that they might be biased, yes, but in some respects. But the reality is this technology gives us an incredible platform to become a thought leader very quickly. So let's talk about ChatGPT, any AI type technology. There's a couple of ways that this helps and hurts thought leaders. So there are ways now that I could use ChatGPT to write all kinds of content for me. The algorithms and the technology is getting smart enough now to tell when something is written by a human and when it's not. So that's issue number one. That's kind of a red flag, which means the search engine, if your strategy is, I'm just going to computer write all this content and make that my blog feed, I don't think long-term you're going to do very well. There's no authenticity there. There's no new ideas. All you're regurgitating is basically thoughts from others. It's kind of, to me, plagiarism in some respect. But you can use tools like ChatGPT to help establish yourself. So you can identify trends. You can identify what are the keywords that should be in a document? What are people reading? So kind of explain, and we use a couple different AI software products when we help develop our own content and content clusters. But Rebekah, and I know you've been working on this a lot lately, kind of explain how that works and just so the audience has an idea if they use that type of tool.
Sure. So I have a love-hate relationship with AI. I am a writer by nature, and I love content creation. And I think it is really important for there to still be a human touch to it. That said, AI is the wave of the future. We've got to adapt to it the same way we all adapted to social media 10 or 15 years ago. It is going to change the landscape of the internet. So let's get comfortable with it now before it really blows up even more. So like Lee was saying, one really great way to use AI, and I've been doing this recently, is to pop a topic into ChatGPT and ask it for the keywords that you need to use in your article. Super, super easy way to utilize it. And it saves you tons of time. Keyword research is one of my least favorite parts of what I do, just because it's very tedious. It can be done, but it can take a couple of hours to research for a long blog article. Like if you're writing a pillar piece that's 2,000 words, it could take 2 hours of prep just to get ready doing manual keyword research. This spits it out in 10 seconds. You have all your words, you can start writing. Another really good way to use it is for social media captions. Tell it, write a social media caption for a post about tax planning for dentists or what have you. And you can even ask it for how many options. You can say, give me 4 options. And then you can kind of combine those and splice them together yourself to create something that's really good and authentic because you've put it together. But it can kind of clear up a lot of those writer's block roadblocks you might run into and serve as your inspiration more than writing it for you per se.
And this is what I think it is. It helps you save time. Yeah. And it also, as Rebekah was saying, it helps you brainstorm. come up with trends or topics that you may know, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, that's a great idea. But the reality is the AI has the entire universe to scrape, and you're still kind of in your own little vacuum. So that's the beauty of it. That's why it is a tool that can be so effective. So I want to start wrapping this up. I think we've kind of hit on what is a thought leader, why it's so important to the tax and accounting space. People that are doing this in our industry are killing it. These are the firms that are growing. These are the ones that are working with fewer clients, charging more money. They have better work-life balance. They've kind of figured out the modern way to build a CPA or an enrolled agent bookkeeping practice. And these are the innovators that are going to thrive. And, we're at that area where there's a lot of people still, I do it this way. I do not want to change. I'm not going to change. But the reality is the world has changed around you. The way people get referrals has changed. The way you grow a firm has changed. The way you even intake and work with clients has changed. So there's a lot of elements that you really need to think about. And that's why we're talking about thought leadership today. Hopefully this resonates with you. If you do want to get started, taxbuzz.com is that's our community of tax and accounting pros, our experts. We're combining what we think is the best of AI technology and humans. We realize that most of the time, ChatGPT is wrong, and then these, Bard and these other tools when it comes to giving advice about tax or accounting related issues. So we've created, and we're creating technology that is a tool to help you. Can help you write a blog article as we continue to refine our tool, but we're also bringing humans into it. So we're having humans review content and putting check stamps on things and really building very high authority content that is kind of a differentiator. So if you are part of the taxbuzz.com community, you will have opportunities that your competition doesn't. So visit taxbuzz.com. You can set up an online profile if you don't have one right now. You can write and publish your first article for free. We do have paid subscriptions that have various other tools and volume and ways to make you appear as a thought leader very quickly. So it's another way to kind of jumpstart yourself. But we hope you enjoyed this content. We do have a bunch of different topics on our horizon that I think are pretty exciting. So hopefully you'll continue to listen to our podcasts on the Growth Minded Accountant. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Rebekah, anything parting to anything I missed?
No, that pretty much tied it up.
All right, we're going to wrap this session up and hopefully see you guys soon. Thank you.